Hello, everyone. My name is Frances Rondon. I am your moderator for this first panel. Welcome to RTC Online. And our panel right now is Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. So I'm excited to be here with a number of fabulous authors who write about cowboys and westerns. So I'm going to start with asking our panelists here to introduce themselves and also just talk a bit about your books and where you're calling us from today. So if we could start with Melissa.
Hello, I'm Melissa Keir, and I'm currently in South Carolina. We are due to get some storms today, but it's been beautiful down here. I write Western romances that take place in a small town. All of my books have small town, and we created a fictional town called Whisper, Colorado. Kind of is patterned off of my own small town in Ohio, where everybody knew what everybody else was doing.
All right, Olivia. Olivia? I think you're on mute. Okay, I think we're having a bit of difficulty with Olivia. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Melissa. I'm actually in North Carolina, so I was wondering what part of South Carolina you were in. Because I grew up in South Carolina. I grew up outside of Charleston, actually. But right now we're in North Carolina, in Charlotte, and I agree, it's been gorgeous here, but we got storms overnight, and we're about to get more storms. I write a couple of different genres, but today I'm here to talk about my cowboys. I just did the math. I have apparently 50 books, 50-ish books for cowboys, half and half contemporary and historicals. My historicals are all sorts of. I've got a couple different series. One of my most popular historicals is a Everland Ever After, which is reimagined fairy tales set in the Old West. And I've got a book bub on one this weekend, so there's a freebie, and I'll post a link. My contemporaries are, just like Melissa, the small town, everybody's in each other's business. I was part of the Rivers End Ranch series, which ran for 3 years and was very popular. And we've got a new one coming out. Actually, yesterday, the Cowboys of Cauldron Valley just launched, and this is a multi-author project with myself and Kirsten Osborne. So we decided that this was the time that we needed to write light, fluffy, and loads of fun with laugh out loud sort of characters. So we wrote them fast and released them fast. So we've got Bob's Bride came out yesterday, and Cade's Convenience comes out next week.
That's great. Peggy?
Hi, I am come from Durango, Colorado. The accent is from Oklahoma, and I'm getting ready to move to Texas. So if anybody had ever told this Oklahoma girl that I'd move to Texas, I'd probably, call them crazy, but that's what's happening. I write Western historicals. I actually, my husband and I did rodeo. We had owned a farm, and we barrel raced and we team roped. And now, as I'm older, I'm paying for a lot of that fun stuff I had when I was younger. I write Western historicals. Most of mine, I have a series that's in Creed, Colorado, which is about 2 hours from Durango. And I love the little town. We spent a lot of time there, and so I just made up a lot of stuff, and kind of built a whole world in that town. And then I am writing a new series called The Debutantes of Durango, which will come out in September. So more fun, more kind of sussy little women who don't want to play by the rules.
Great. Terri?
Hi, my name's Terri, and I'm actually in Charlotte too, Caroline. So
What?
I know, huh? Strange world. So I write. Actually, I just released. Well, I will release here in like 4 or 5 days or something. My first cowboy romance, which is actually a shifter cowboy romance, in that the lead character is a horse shifter, and he owns a ranch, and he, on his ranch, actually has a section of his ranch that's for rehabilitation. So they will rescue horses that have been abused or neglected by their by their owners. And he brings them to the ranch and kind of helps to rehabilitate. They're real horses, not necessarily shifter horses. And then I also, as I'm sitting here listening to people talk, I do have a Western type series that I started last year, more of a what they call weird Western, which is more like a science fiction type Western that takes place in a small town based off of the town of Tombstone, Arizona, right about 1890. So, yay. Nice to meet everybody.
All right. Jennifer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Looks like Jennifer just fell off.
Okay.
And we do have Hildie here, who's replacing Heather Long, couldn't make it today.
Hildie, would you like to say a few words? I think you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Hildie McQueen. I'm USA Today bestselling author, and I write not only Westerns of all kinds, but I also write medieval Scottish. But for my cowboys, I like to call them the Highlanders of America. So I write mostly sweet. I write bride books. I write the Brides for All Seasons series, which is this group of women that are traveling from the West Coast to start new lives and find love in the West. And then I also write the Shades of Blue series, which is based on a family, the Coles, and a bunch of hunky cowboys there in that area. And then actually it's funny because the books are in Alder Gulch, Montana, which I thought was a dead town, and turns out it's not, because I found some raiders there. And I have also 2 books that are about these women that also travel west, but they go to Texas, and that is the other series that I write.
Great. Let's try, I think last author we have on the panel is Olivia. Let's see if we can get her microphone working. Olivia? I think you're muted, Olivia. Okay, well, we'll wait to see if we can get her online. But I would like to start off with a game with our authors. Basically, we're going to play as an icebreaker, Kiss, Marry, Kill. So I'm going to name 3 celebrities, and I'll choose one of the authors to think about and let us know which one she would kiss, which one she would marry, and which one she would kill. So I'm going to start off with Caroline. Between your choices are Oscar Isaac, Chris Hemsworth, and Idris Elba.
I don't know who the first one is.
Okay, hold on.
Who's the first one?
I've got a picture. Let's see here.
Maybe I should just kill him since I don't know who he is.
Sure.
Okay, whoever that first one is, I'll kill. I'm sure he's a very nice person, but I don't know who he is. So, tell me the other 2.
Idris Elba and Chris Hemsworth.
Okay, I would kiss Idris and marry Chris. Just because I know
These are the guys. Do you see them?
I don't know. No, I don't see them. Do it again.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties here.
I think you're going to change your answers.
Oh, darn it, really?
I see the first one now. Yeah, you're
I
good.
don't see any of them. Why not?
Oh, that's strange.
Well, the first
Okay.
one that she talks about is he was in the last Star Wars series. The last
Yeah, he plays
three
Poe
Star Wars-
Dameron. Anyway, so now Carolina gets.
He is fairly attractive. Yes. Yes.
All right, so now it's your turn to, I guess, ask someone to.
Man. Okay. I literally am choosing this based off the last movie I watched. Okay. So I don't know any celebrities. I'm gonna go with Jason Momoa, Jason Statham, and Vin Diesel. Okay, and I'm gonna ask. Well, I don't know.
We'll say
Hildie.
There you go.
Jason Statham. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Statham.
Statham. Okay, I'm looking him up real quick. Oh, him. Okay.
Oh,
Jason Momoa, and who's the other one?
Vin
Diesel was her third.
Oh, Vin Diesel. Okay. I am going to kill Vin Diesel. No, I can't kill him. He's too hard to kill. I am going to kill Jason Momoa.
Oh,
He's not. Yeah, he's okay.
I'm not sure I could stand a conversation with him.
Yeah, I think if I married him, no, that would be too distracting. So I will kill Jason Momoa. I will kiss Jason Statham and marry Vin Diesel.
All right.
All right, now you pick three, Hildie.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick Henry Cavill, Chris Evans, and Harry Connick Jr. And I'm gonna give those three to Peggy McKenzie.
oh, thank you so much. Well,
You're
you and
welcome.
I fight over Henry all the time.
We do.
So that one is a no-brainer. I would marry Henry. I would probably, Harry Connick is so nice. Well, I might have to kill him, and then I'd kill Chris.
Poor Chris Evans. He's
I know, and he's so nice. He's so
Captain
nice.
America.
Yeah, so I think that's my answers. And now I've got to think of some celebrities, don't I? Okay. I'm going to go Western on you. So I'm going to do Clint Eastwood. And they can be dead, right?
Sure.
Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, and
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley. Sounds fabulous. All right, let's see. What poor victim, what fellow author am I going to now? How about Melissa?
Okay. This is a tough one. I mean, how do you kill any of those guys, right?
I know, right?
Let me think here. Well, I think Elvis I'd have to do away with. We're just going to let him die on his own. Too much competition for him. I don't know that I could handle that. Or probably would kiss Clint and marry John Wayne. He just seems so stable and like a good provider that I think that would work out for me.
Nice.
I love your reasoning.
So now my three for Terri. So let's go, Terri. How about Tom Hiddleston? He played Loki in the Avengers movies. Chris Pine, who played James T. Kirk in the Star Trek series. Mm-hmm. And let's go with, let's see, who's a good third one? Let's go with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Doctor Strange.
Also Sherlock.
I would kill Loki, Tom Hiddleston,
I love Loki.
I would marry Benedict Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch.
Anything works for his name, right?
And then
Cucumber.
I would kiss Chris Evans. So
I would agree.
has anybody else not gone?
Awesome. I think we're still missing Olivia and Jennifer.
Okay, but they're not on the call, are they? Are they still here?
They were. Oh no, I guess Jennifer dropped off, but
Okay.
oh no, I think they may both have dropped off. All right, so thank you.
Okay,
Guys.
no, wait, let me ask you, Francis.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Back to Francis.
There we go. All right. Write this
So
down.
I'm gonna have a theme here. I have Sam Elliott, Sam Hagen, who's from the Outlander, and Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay, Outlander. Okay. Well, I definitely maybe you know what? I would kiss Samuel L. Jackson. Nary, it'd have to be Outlander guy. Like, come on. And then I'd kill Sam Elliott.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Okay, so let's get started. Westerns, cowboys. Let's talk a bit about that. I suppose one of the first things, I guess, that I'm interested in to ask you guys is, in terms of the genre, why were you attracted to writing in this genre, and what's your favorite trope to write or read, actually? Let's start with Peggy.
Well, I just love cowboys. You know, I've been around them all my life. Roped with them, rodeoed with them. So, you know, they're just most of them, 99.9% of them are just very, you know, yes ma'am, no ma'am, very, you know, polite, very, you know, just I guess it's probably more their values. And plus I just like horses. And the tropes are probably going to be, you know, kind of, I hate to say it, but it's damsel in distress. You know, there's always a problem. And even though she can fix it herself, or at least she thinks she can fix it herself, there's always that element of sometimes you just need a little bit of help, you know. And so a lot of mine are that trope, and also, you know, kind of enemies to friends. You know, they start out like great conflict. They just, you know, they get on each other's nerve, they push each other's buttons, and then as time goes on, they realize they have a lot more common than they thought they did. So
Great. Hildie?
Did you ask what attracted me to the trope? Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was an interesting. I have a story that I always love to tell, and that was that I took my daughter. She had just gotten married to her first husband, and dropped them off in Atlanta. And I was doing some research on this other book I was writing, and I was actually writing paranormal at the time. And so I'm driving around Georgia, and I get this girl, and I know for writers understand, but this redhead jumped in my passenger seat and started telling me her story. And I couldn't stop driving because the story was just so interesting. And it was just it's a girl that runs away from an abusive home, ends up on a stagecoach out west after being in a brothel, and then married to a total stranger out west. And so I got home 6 hours later. By the way, my husband did not wonder where I was this entire time. And I walked in and he's like, "Oh, hey." So I'm surprised he didn't ask what's for dinner. And so then I started outlining that book, and I think it was the fastest book I ever wrote. It is the first Western I ever wrote. I never even read the genre. And after that, it was like I fell in love with the Western genre. I mean, I grew up watching Bonanza and all that. I don't know if you can see the cover behind me. I'm trying to see where is it? It's right there on the end. but it's called Where the Four Winds Collide, and that was my first Western. And after that, I started writing Westerns. My favorite trope, I think, is always marriage of convenience, because I write a lot of mail order brides, or women that are going out west just to find a new start in life for whatever circumstances sent them there. And so I pretty much like the marriage of convenience. I think that's a trope that always draws me in, to see how these people that are really don't know anything about each other end up together and then, fall in love. So I love that trope. That is probably my favorite trope to write and to read.
Great. Melissa.
Well, believe it or not, even in my small town, Ohio, I grew up with 2 friends who went out west every summer and spent their entire summers working as cattle punchers. And so we talked a lot, and I was one of those kids who grew most of my days spending it on horseback. So I would get up and go to the local farm and ride the horses and visit there and hang out with the horses. I just felt comfortable with them. And so when I got the chance to write a romance, that was where I drew from, was my knowledge and my understanding of the horses and the time when my friends were working and the stories that they'd come back and tell. Now, my favorite one is small town, definitely. Everything I read and everything I do has to have small town in it, because that's kind of my life story. And I love the second chances. When you find, a lot of us are older, and we find that first time that we feel like we've connected with someone after we've had the stresses of marriage or stresses of dating. And we just feel like there's that one person that really not necessarily completes us, because we were complete before, but just that person that we can be ourselves with and accepts all of those quirky, strange pieces that make us whole. So that's what I look for.
What about you, Caroline? I think you're on mute.
First I have to figure out how to unmute myself. I'm not good at that. Okay, I have a whole dissertation on this, actually. I write Westerns. Okay, no, we'll start differently. If we're thinking about historical romance, which is where I came into this, my brand is History with Heart. I have been a historian my whole life. If you're thinking about historical romance, you think regencies. Because something like 50% of all historical romances are published as regencies. Western romance is actually, I think, the second biggest subgenre. Somebody correct me. I remember reading that. Maybe the numbers were from 2017, 2018. But that's a pretty big deal. And my theory is that these appeal to different people for different reasons. One reader could obviously read both of them, but they're very different. Here's going to sum it up. A Regency or a Victorian romance ends happily ever after if the characters have the money to which they've become accustomed. I mean, I know that's a broad generalization, but we are, the heroine has to marry, the hero has to save his dukedom, whatever. We are going to ride off. Actually, you don't ride off into the sunset. Somebody puts you in a carriage and you drive off into the sunset with your dukedom intact. Western romance ends happily ever after if the characters can be dirt poor and are willing to work their tails off together. Again, broad generalization, but it appeals to two different people. So your Western heroes don't have to be dukes. They don't have to be war heroes. They can be anybody as long as they're working hard, getting their fingernails dirty, that sort of thing. And the heroine is willing to participate in this. You two are going to work to make your ranch a success for the rest of your life. And I think that appeals to different readers for different reasons. Again, same reader can read both of them. A very meritocracy kind of concept of it's not what you were born into. You didn't get this because you are a first son. You got this because you are working hard for it. So I had a choice when I started writing historical romance, and I said, well, I'm more familiar with the Western concepts. Again, I don't actually ride horses. I don't actually know that much about horses. I'm slightly scared of horses because they're so huge. But that's why I write westerns. I find that happily ever after appealing. My favorite tropes are across the board in all of the genres I write are broken heroes. I want a hero that has a lot of stuff going on in his past. I love the hero who is the bad boy, who doesn't really want to be the bad boy. He just wants to be loved. He just needs a hug, but he can't tell anybody he needs a hug because he has to be tough and be the bad boy because of whatever's going on in his past. And then the heroine comes in and sort of chips that away. And by the end, he's able to admit his feelings and talk about his past and all that kind of stuff. I do have to say I write a lot of characters with physical disability because I think it's important to represent different disability in romance. So my historicals and my contemporaries involve all sorts of disabilities, in some extent developmental disabilities as well in my contemporaries. But I think that's also part of the concept of the broken character who has to come to terms with the new reality, that sort of thing.
Okay, we have a couple of questions from the people that are watching. Have any of you considered writing a story with a black cowboy? And kind of piggybacking on that is why are there not more stories of buffalo soldiers or black rodeo?
I'm gonna go get my cover so you can see my cowboys.
Well, I'm gonna answer that a little bit from my point of view. I think because the readership is not quite there. Maybe because I haven't, or a lot of us don't write it. But in my opinion, the readership is not quite there for characters of color. It's a good idea to write buffalo soldiers. One of us should probably do the research for it. I think it's a little bit of a research thing, but that is a good idea. I wouldn't mind writing that.
Okay. And there's Caroline. And Terri, just wanted to turn to you to ask the question in terms of what attracted you to the genre, to westerns, and your favorite tropes.
I was just going to answer the question you got on writing more black cowboys and stuff like that. I think one of the things that appeals to me about approaching westerns from more of a weird western or almost a science fiction type western, marrying the two together, is you have a little bit more freedom where you don't have to spend 100% of your time doing all the research like what Hildie was talking about. So I think that might be a place to open that area up a little bit easier. The reason I chose, to go back to the question of before, the reason I chose, I grew up in the South, I grew up in Texas. So I've always been around in the outside and around ranches. When I was a kid, I helped take care of a buffalo for a while, and it was on our farm. And so I grew up swimming in the horse trough and swimming in the irrigation ditches and stuff. That's how we cooled off in the afternoon, was we would just jump in there. I like paranormal romance to begin with, but I think the cowboys and paranormal, the alpha males, they kind of just really marry each other together. I think it was, I'm looking at the faces, I think it was Peggy that talked about the broken heroes, or maybe that was Caroline. That's Caroline that was talking about that. To me, I love that because I think it's more real. I don't like Regency romance because I don't necessarily like the idea of when they have the money, they get the happy ever after. I don't want people to work for it. I want them to go in the nitty gritty and to face things. And I think whether you're doing cowboy westerns with a paranormal touch, or even just a more contemporary or even a historical touch, that's what appeals to me the most.
Great. In terms of, I guess, I'll turn to Caroline. I want to see that cover that you're talking about.
Am I unmuted now? Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so I apparently have more books out than I thought because I was counting before the panel. I'm a big believer in diversity in romance. Every reader deserves a chance to see themselves in the books somehow. Like I said, I have a lot of disability, but I've also got a lot of racial diversity in there. And I think that historical Westerns are, I don't want to say unique, but they have the benefit of the Western US in the late 1800s was a melting pot. We could put anybody in there that we want. So I have, oh my gosh, I have all sorts of characters. This is one of my all-time favorite, excuse me. So Ante Up features, this is my vigilante, yeah, the man in black who rides in with the mask to save the town. He's Native American. Second book in the series, this is U.S. Marshal Quentin Diamond. And is he not gorgeous? Is that not a beautiful cover? Okay. I know it's not frequent that we see them on covers, that we see non-white models on covers, but they're out there. And quite a few of my contemporaries also feature characters of color that are, but of course they're contemporaries, so it's less of an abnormality. We see more. Anyhow, Westerns are unique. I don't want to say unique, but we can do it in Westerns.
In terms of, I guess this is to all the authors, do you have, or I guess tell us about one of your cowboys. What makes him swoon-worthy or unique? And we'll start with Peggy.
Oh, lovely. Well, I think one of my Angel Creek Christmas Bride stories, Sarah, has been a very popular series. Hildie is also in that with me. And I think, and this is a built-in conflict because the heroines come from a post-Civil War ravaged countryside, and they go west because that's their choice, you know. They don't have a lot of choices where they are because all the men are gone. So my heroine is from the South, and my hero was a Union officer. He is now a sheriff of this small town, and through everything that he's been through, he's just you know, he's handsome, of course. He's in control of his town, and he's very compassionate and he understanding about, you know, the losses that everyone suffered on both sides of the fence. And so through it all, he's got a kind of a quirky sense of humor. She doesn't find it funny at first, and then she kind of, you know, relaxes and decides that, you know, there's more to life than just one side of the story. And so I think Quinn is probably the epitome of most you know, heroes. I mean, he was wounded tragically, actually, but he overcomes and finds love again and starts over.
Great. Melissa?
Well, I think the one that most people connect with is Jake Kincaid. He's the guy he's the cowboy who owns the Heart Song Ranch, and it is a ranch that does equine therapy. So they use the horses in order to help, particularly children. And that's one of the things that I find most endearing about the men. You know, they have that quality of caring that is more than just, you know, looking at how much money they can make, or, you know, that they're the next billionaire, but that they care about the community around them. And so he's created this ranch where both adults and children can receive services to help them if they're disabled.
Terri, what about you?
The one that I have, his name is Dominic, and I think what's going to make him really, what people are going to like about him is that he's this very tough business guy, and people see him as, you know, really. I gotta try to make sure I keep this very clean because it is the morning. But he's very like, you know, and he's business and all business and stuff. But yet, the business part of his business model is he will go and find businesses that the banks won't give loans to, and he will lend them the money as part, and he becomes part of their like part owner. And then once they're able to be afloat, he sells them back his shares. So he has this softer side to him. And then he also, part of the reason he set up this ranch that he has for himself was for his father. So he's this really, which is very important in shifter paranormal romances, alpha male that's like, but yet he's got this soft side that I think people are going to really be attracted to. And he's, of course, knock dead gorgeous. So, and he looks good in jeans. So he's got that nice little, that we can't say in the morning, but I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about here. So that's it.
Hildie?
Okay, well, I am going back to where the four winds collide and talking about Jackson Pruitt. I mean, what a good guy that guy is. He is a rancher. His father abandoned him and his little brother when he was but young, like 12 years old, and his little brother was about 6, and he raised them. He managed to keep their little ranch afloat. And then, you know, he grew the ranch, and his brother became the town sheriff. And I just love him because not only it seems like a really honorable man, like, you know, he gets this mail order bride he didn't expect to get. He takes care of her and is very patient with her. He loves dogs. And then his brother, who's a sheriff, gets killed by a drunk man, and not killed, I'm sorry, shot. And he cares for him. He drops everything, goes there and takes care of his brother. And so I really like that, and the fact that he is strong and very masculine, but at the same time, he is so responsible, so honorable, and, you know, takes care of everything. And then when he finds out a secret about his wife, you know, it still, the way he reacts to it is quite not what you want to read, but it's what an honorable person would do.
All right. So Caroline, it might be hard for you to choose one, but I'll ask you to try. Oh, is Caroline?
Okay. Sorry, I have such a hard time unmuting myself. I don't know. Okay, I've been listening to all of these fantastic cowboys, and now I want to read all of these fantastic cowboys. And I realized that my heroes are not all cowboys. So my books are Westerns, but I have, you know, I have one of my favorites is a restaurant owner who's always dreamed of, he was raised on the streets and he wants to own a restaurant. The ones that I was just talking about, he owns a ranch. But I think what I'm going to do is I posted a link to one of my reimagined fairy tales and in the reader group. So I think I'll just talk about one of those heroes. In my version of Cinderella, my hero is Ian Crown, and he owns Crown's Mercantile, and he lost a leg at Gettysburg. So but he refuses to use a crutch. Like, he only uses a crutch when absolutely necessary. So he's very like, I can do this on myself. He's got red hair and freckles and glasses. And to me, that's just heart melting because we never see that in historicals. And he collects stray dogs. Like, he gives them homes, which I love. I'm throwing that in there for Hildie because I knew she would like that. So I guess I'm not going to go on about him, but I like the fact that he's gone out west to make a new life for himself, and a lot of my heroes do that, even if they're not necessarily out there punching cows or whatever cowboys do. Sorry.
Don't punch a cow, animal.
What do they do? They hurt them or something? I don't know.
Wow, cow punching. Okay.
What do they do? What is that called? There's punching involved, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So this question goes out to any of you guys to answer. How has this genre changed in the past 5 years, or what are some interesting trends that you've noticed in this genre?
Well, I noticed that it keeps changing, but it stays the same at the same time. It's hard to explain. I mean, it seems that we're all still writing in the mail order brides, and a lot of people are writing stronger heroines. I think that's the one change I have noticed, a little bit of a stronger heroine. And at the same time, though, the tropes seem to stay the same. Just since I started in Western, it seems like readers are expecting stronger heroines, and even though they're damsel in distress and they need to be saved in one way or another, otherwise it wouldn't be romance. They are not this person that's willing to lay down and let everything happen. They want to help themselves.
Yeah, I have to agree with Hildie on that, because I think back to the romances that I would read in the 1980s, especially the Western romances. The women let the men, I mean, they were kidnapped. They, you know, all these horrible things would happen to them, and they would just kind of let them, you know, throw their head back and swoon. And now the women seem to be much more, I'm going to react. I'm going to put my foot in there. I'm going to go undercover in a brothel. I'm going to escape whatever damages are being done to me. And they're much more participant in it. And I think that that's a nice piece.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well.
In terms of, I guess one of my other questions is like, what are the biggest challenges about writing in this genre that you found?
For me, it's horses.
Yeah, horses don't bother me as much. I mean, you know, a horse is a horse, and, you know, the tack is different than it was in the 1800s, you know, what they have now. So a little bit of research, but I used to get so wrapped up in the research because I love history. Love it, love it. If I could go back in time, I would. But I used to just get so sidetracked because I would get, you know, it's like squirrel. And every time I turn a page, I would have this whole new world open up. So I've learned to limit my research. And so if I just need to know one thing about how you tack up a horse to a carriage, that's all I get to look at. And once I get the answer, shut it down and go back to writing.
What's tack?
See, I always believed that I would be the first vegetarian living back there if they transported me back to the Old West. I could not kill the animals. I could not cook the dead animals. I would be out on their range, like, I'm going to pick up this green and hope it doesn't kill me.
Here's more beans.
More beans.
Everybody gets beans.
Don't come to my tent at night.
I would name all the cows.
Oh, and you'd moo every time you go by them. Look, there's a cow. Moo,
Yeah.
moo, moo. Look, there's a cow. Moo. I do that now.
I think being closer to the animal, I mean, you know, I've ridden them and roped them and branded them and decluttered their
Ew,
stuff.
you're mean.
That's for Terri.
And then you ate them?
Yep. It's just part of ranch life. That's just the way it is, you know. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, you know, when you're used to that and you see it, I mean, it's just what you do. You don't even. So I do eat steak. Sorry.
I do too, but I like mine shopping at Kroger's instead of killing it on the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a cow, and somebody has to do it. So.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to turn it over to the authors. Do you guys have any questions for each other?
Oh, goodness.
I do.
I did.
I always struggle with coming up with names. How do you guys come up with your names?
Your character names?
Yeah, character names.
One of my things that I do really frequently is ask my reader
me
group.
too.
I either ask my reader group for give me a bunch of suggestions, and then I'll choose one, and then sometimes like I'll give a prize to the one I choose, or I will run a contest and the winner gets to choose a name. I've named characters after readers because they won a contest, you know, that sort of thing. Not always my main characters, but So I involve my readers a lot in my reader group specifically.
My readers get to name my characters, not get to name them, but like Carolyn says, they also get to, you know, suggest a bunch of names, and they always have great ideas. And then I also do the, they also name like roads or towns, because, you know, we run out of ideas. Sometimes I'll watch a Western just to see what people are named and then go from there and kind of pick some of the side characters, because they have good names in there too. A lot of common names though, lots of Johns and Bills and Bobs and
Yes.
Yeah, and usually I'll Google, because I like to get a list of names sometimes. Because in my head I kind of have an idea or a feeling of the names I want to use. So I'll Google the year that I'm setting my story in, and then I'll come up with however many for either the hero or heroine or both. And then I'll let my reader group, out of these 10 or out of these 20 or whatever, you know, which ones do you prefer? And let them kind of side. Because sometimes I've actually had contests where I just let them pick willy-nilly. And sometimes it gets a little off track, you know. So I just do that, just trying to keep them in the time period that I'm writing in.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'd like to know what everybody's working on right now, and where do they see the Western genre headed? Because I have no idea personally, but I just want to know, where do you guys see our genre headed, and what are you working on right now?
Well, I'm working on two series. I'm working on the 6th book of The Brides of the Rio Grande that takes place in Creed. So that one, I'm going to wrap that up. And then I'm starting the Debutantes of Durango, which will come out in September. And I think, you know, I've done a couple of surveys about Westerns of my readers and my newsletter recipients. And you know, are Westerns dead? Do you want to see more Westerns? If you do, what kind do you want? You want sweet? You want saucy? You know, what do you want? And everyone, I'd say probably 80% would respond. They love their Westerns. You know, they love that time in our country. And but it's mixed on what they like. Some like saucy, some like sweet, some like both. You know, so you know, I think that's just a split of personal preference. But as far as Westerns go, I mean, the people that love it, they love it.
We're getting down to the last few minutes, and so I just wanted to thank all our panelists and to give you guys the opportunity to, if you have any promotions or giveaways or anything, if you want to talk about them now, that would be great.
Well, I went ahead and I posted in the reader group underneath our panel the link to my free book for the weekend with a couple of other links. Can I ask you where the people are asking questions? The chat group, can I respond to any of those?
We already, like in the YouTube video live, they're posting some questions in the comments there, and so far I haven't seen too many questions, but we've answered them already. So, but if there are any more questions there, please post it and we can answer them.
Okay, I have a free book, the first book in the series that I'm wrapping up, The Brides of the Rio Grande, and I'll post that link on the group as well as soon as we're finished.
And I'm doing a giveaway in my signing up for my newsletter. So if you sign up for my newsletter, going through my website at melissakeir.com, I'm giving away a free ebook copy of the first 3 books of the Cowboys of Whisper, Colorado. And so, Hildie, what I'm currently working on is another book in that series. It's a sequel to the story of my Western bull rider who was injured and is in a wheelchair. So it's a holiday story for him.
I have a free book too, in the Shades of Blue, the first book, which is Big Sky Blue, and I will be posting the link also in the group, on the Facebook group. for that, and also the link to join my newsletter, and you also get a free book with that.
Okay. Anyone else? And or any last questions you guys might have for each other? No. Okay, well, I would like to thank you all. It was such a good time this morning. It was a lot of fun hearing about Westerns and challenges and wonderful cowboys, you know, that do things other than punching cows. So,
Poor little cows.
There's other panels today. So I think the next starts around noon, I believe. Or noon Eastern time, sorry. And so for our readers and viewers to check that out. It's been a lot of fun. This is the second Saturday that we've done these panels, and you can actually go back to the Romancing the Capital channel and view all the past panels from last week, and there's also going to be more panels next week. So stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. It was really great to chat with you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet everybody.
Nice
Nice
to
to
meet
meet you guys.
Happy
Well,
trail.
Happy trail.
Happy trails.
Happy trails.